beautiful day. Oh my god! Meteor attack! Meteor attack!
This is the Puppet Show!
The main character in this show is me! I'm the main character. I'm Dragony the Dragon. And I'm a policeman who wants to kill you! This video is too violent to see, so we're going to show you a video of me when I was in the film Star Wars. Thank you very much. Oh no, you killed me! You killed me! Everyone that gets applause on this video gets shot! That's nothing compared to my story! I lived! Hey, Wolf! Yes? What's the weirdest thing you've ever done? No, don't shoot! Well, I guess we'll never know. That's all, folks, but please enjoy this video of us dancing!
Second, I need to get my story straight. My friends are in the bathroom getting higher than the Empire State. My lover, she's waiting for me.
This video is sponsored by Exploding Dogs. Everyone loves exploding dogs. Oh wait, no, not exploding dogs, no!